if it's okay, I will tell you the situation, what happened 30 years ago.
Yes, it's
Because,
good if we see that progression.
That is something that did not happen in its later time, and that makes the difference. So in 1989, the communist system ended at the end of the year. And so from 1990 onward, we were in a capitalist free system. And everybody, not only the people, but also the politicians, they thought, okay, now we have to change the education, because we had only communist education, all schools were the same, and all schools were constructed under the communist ideology. So we must do something, we must also bring democracy to school system somehow. Um, so we have to change the curriculum, so it's not Marxist curriculum, etc. And also for everybody, the solution was easy. Okay, look to the West, and then look what are the best schools in the West, and then copy them in the Czech Republic. I think there was an agreement among the people and the politicians to do it this way. So some people went abroad to look into schools. Before, it was almost impossible to go to the West. It was very difficult. But then it was very easy. So some people went to Holland, some people to Germany, US, and wanted to see what are the best schools there. For some people, they saw, for them, the best are the Steiner schools. For somebody else, they saw, no, the best is the Dalton system. For somebody, the best was Montessori, and etc. So they also got to know about homeschooling, and so they came back and wanted to do it. So they had to really convince the politicians. So these people that liked the Waldorf, the Rudolf Steiner schools, they said to one minister, okay, we can make a nice trip for you. Or we can bring you to Germany. There is a wonderful school. There should be such schools in Czech Republic. So the minister went to Germany to look at the Steiner schools. And maybe the same thing was also made. Some other groups showed some Montessori school to some politicians. And so the politicians were convinced. And they wanted to change anyway. So why not to change this way? So what happened after that? First, there was a law that allowed private schools to be opened. And second, there were almost no other laws, because the communist laws, they were thrown away. And then in the beginning, there was only a law that private schools are also allowed if the parents choose. But there were no more laws, no restrictions on it. So one friend of mine, I think he started the first private secondary school in Czech Republic, and he told me, you know, okay, we wanted to start a private school, a secondary school, so we wrote one paper, what is it about? We gave it to the ministry, they said it's okay, and we started. It was very simple, because there were almost no laws in the beginning. And also the Waldorf schools, the Rudolf Steiner schools, they started very quickly. Maybe they thought that it's good that at least these teachers have 1 year of education of Rudolf Steiner method. So they went abroad to Germany or Holland. After 1 year, they came back and the school started. It means that the first Steiner schools, I think, started, most of them, 2 years after the end of communism. So 1991, I think, some of them 1992. And the state supported this because they wanted that these are state schools. So at that year, maybe 6 Rudolf Steiner schools started, different cities, all in the state system completely. And the government said, this is an experiment. This is an experiment, and Montessori is another experiment, and homeschooling is another experiment. And they gave a lot of freedom to these people, because they don't have to follow the normal curriculum, because they are experiment. So this way, this is the reason why even today, 30 years later, we have maybe 8 state rural Steiner schools and many Montessori schools. Usually it's not, the whole school is not Montessori, but there is a school and like 1/2 or 1/3 of the school is Montessori. So there are many like that. And there was another system I want to mention because it's important, because you asked about democracy. Don't forget your question. And this is called step by step, accompanied by another system, critical thinking. But both of these things, if I'm not mistaken, they come from Open Society Foundation, from George Soros. So George Soros and the American state, they decided they want to teach Czech people, Polish people, Hungarian people democracy. So they said the good way to teach them democracy is to introduce this into schools and into teacher training. So critical thinking was the method how to teach teachers, how to teach children critical thinking, which is important for democracy. And the same group of people from the US also started a school model step by step. It is very similar like Dalton and a little bit like Montessori, but not exactly the same thing. So that there is some kind of education that is not only listening to the teacher, but where the children are active, choose something and do their own exploration, etc. And this step-by-step method was the one that was that was put into even more state schools than Montessori or Waldorf. So that were the 90s. They were like this.
I have a question. How was the attitude of the teachers in front of the changing? They were attached to the old system, or they were open to the new way of education?
Of course, there were some teachers that were open, and they, very, very few of them heard about these methods even before the change. So in the communist time, very few. And I think these few were the leaders, because they were some of them that had the possibility to go abroad before and lived abroad. Some of them lived in Switzerland and somebody in Germany. And so they could speak out of their experience, but they were very, very few of them. And there was one university professor that was traveling to Germany in the 80s, in the time of the communism. He went to Berlin or Leipzig, and he went into the university library, and he could read books that were not available in Czech Republic and would probably be forbidden, because alternative education was kind of actually a little bit like against the state. So he could read there about Summerhill, Montessori, Waldorf. So he knew that before the end of the regime, and when the capitalism came and the freedom, he was at the university a professor, and he said, well, I'm a professor, I'm an expert in education, so please, it's very necessary to introduce Montessori schools and Rudolf Steiner schools, because they are the most progressive forms. And because he had the authority of the professor, so he was like a partner for the government. And the government had no time to, to investigate that, and they wanted to put some Western method of education into Czech, so why not? So it was very, very easy. But I say only about few teachers, few personalities. But of course, most teachers, they had no idea how to teach in a different way. And but we are speaking only about a few schools, 10, 20 schools. And they were these progressive teachers there, and maybe a part of the other teachers were not so progressive, but they liked to do something new. But of course, it was clear after some time that they still stick to the old method. So it was some kind of compromise. But this quality was actually different and was not actually very bad, even in the 90s. It is surprising. So the question is, why was it not so bad if nobody knew about it? So my explanation is, I can now explain in the Rudolf Steiner system, because it was probably the first system that was introduced very quickly. There were many people from Western Germany, from Switzerland, a little bit, also from Holland, especially from these countries, and they came to teach the teachers. So they came even before the first Waldorf school started. Just right after the revolution, they came and they started teacher training, and also everybody was welcome. So the parents could come, and also the politicians were welcome. Everybody, and there was an enthusiasm in the 90s. Everybody was enthusiastic. We will have a good education, a free education, not like before. And on this wave, they were very quick to come. So that was good. And they were very organized because they have a very good organization. And there was a lot of these seminars. So I think, and they also went to schools. I remember that they went to see how the teachers teach. Sometimes, of course, the teachers did very stupid mistakes, completely against this philosophy. But they were told by the Germans or maybe Dutch people, okay, this is a mistake. So most of the schools I knew in the Steiner school system, they had some mentor from Germany or from Switzerland or from Holland, and I think
Excuse me.
that kept the quality.
I think this program of formation of the students and of the teachers was held by the state, by the public, by the states, or it
No.
was something external.
It was something external. So I think they were like two parts. They were lectures organized by the University of Pedagogy, the state university, and there the people and the students, but also sometimes the public, were introduced into the Steiner or Montessori pedagogy. And but this was only like one evening, many times, but it was only a superficial introduction, of course. And then there was something else that were very systematic courses organized, most of them by the Germans, that had nothing to do formally with the state, nothing. But they were good because they had good quality. And they were teachers there, like many of them had 40 years of experience. So they were 70 years old, and they had incredible life experience teaching in this alternative system. So that was the Waldorf schools, and the same was with Montessori, but they came later. I think they basically, first of them started like 5 years after the first Waldorf started. And it was the same thing, very strong support from the Germans, from the Western countries. Otherwise, it would not work. There were no books in Czech. Maybe there were some books in English or German, but most people could not read German or English because the only compulsory foreign language was Russian. And you did not have Russian books about Montessori or Waldorf. So it was these personalities coming, and I must say, at least for the Rudolf Steiner movement, they were really, like, some of them were the best of the best. It was not just, some teachers that had time to come to Czech. So I think the start was big success. That was the 90s. This time of this experiment where all these three streams, homeschooling, Montessori, Steiner, they could exist and be free because of experiment.
And then after the 90s?
After the 19th, then situation changed. Maybe this enthusiasm was over. Politicians also started to look more like normal politicians, be more and more interested in power and not that much in education and doing good things. And on the other hand, they also did not encourage anymore starting new schools in the state system. But in the meantime, not in the meantime, actually, almost from the beginning, this was this possibility of private schools to be opened. And when it was not possible anymore to do state schools, so even the people who like to offer this education to all children, not only to some rich children, even them, of course, they had to start private schools because it was not possible, or it was almost impossible to start a new alternative school in the state system. So that's why, like maybe in the second half of the 90s, a lot of private schools started.
And they were not supported by the state.
They were always supported.
Always.
I don't know the exact history of the support, but I say the situation that is now, but that is there for many years already, at least 15 years, is like that. That if you, so starting a private school means that it is usually it was a group of parents that wanted a school. So they created an NGO, and they found somebody who can be the director of the school, and they found some teachers, and they did all the paperwork, official things. They found a building. They asked the municipality or the village or whatever if they can get this building, some conditions, etc., and a lot of conditions that had to be fulfilled. And they started the school, and then they decided that it would be a Steiner school, Montessori school, step-by-step school, or something even more different, like a forest school. And the first year, by law, they get 60% of support from the government. Then during the first year, according to the law, the school inspections comes. But they don't come at some random moment. But if you are a school director, you can say, okay, can you come in December, okay, to look. Then the December is coming and there is still a lot of chaos in the school. So you can say, okay, sorry, please, maybe it's better you come in February. So it's like that. So they are like, you can you can be in good contact with them. And if they see that it's more or less okay, not everything okay, but like not a complete disaster from their point of view, then they give the permission for the next year, and then you get 100% next year.
So at the beginning they had the 60%, and then after the control, verifying the thing, they had the 70%.
Yeah, it means that in the beginning there must be almost, in most cases, there is some kind of investment on the part of the parents, not that much teachers, because they have to find a building, but then they have to make a reconstruction because it's maybe not school, you have to change it. That's one money. Another money is maybe they do it for free, but they have to spend a lot of hours to do all these papers. And third investment is, in the beginning, you have only 60% of the money from the beginning, from the government. Maybe it's not enough. And also, in the 90s, or even a little bit later, usually there are not enough children in the first year, because people say, okay, that's interesting, alternative school, okay, maybe I'm interested, but okay, but first show, how is it? Okay, we have not started. Okay, so maybe I come later. So most parents react like this, and there are only few that are really fanatical people. They really believe Montessori, and you start with few students, and you have only 60%. That means that the rest, the parents or some of them have to pay out of their pocket a large sum. Sometimes it was if the founder was a teacher or a former director in different school, they put their personal money into it. So I have quite a few friends who took a loan from the bank, like 1 million crowns, for instance, or 2 million crowns, and which is like 100. It can be 50,000. No, yeah, 50,000 euro, maybe 100,000 euro, to do all of this out of their personal money, but maybe they don't have the money, so they take an official loan from the bank, and they hope everything is okay, and then there will be more and more children, and it will be paid back. But no, I know these people. It's very difficult for them because sometimes there are some problems, and there are a little bit more children only second year, and third also a little bit more, and or maybe it's getting better, but then there is a conflict in the school, and 1/3 of the children go away because there is a conflict, and then there is less money. So again, if you are this director who put his money, then he cannot get it back. He has to wait many, many years. So why I'm saying that many of these people, they were really brave, and they really get into a real risk to do this. And I think this is something that it gives a great power into the Czech movement, because everything is not so easy like in Finland or everywhere, that really the state does everything for you. So that was the situation with the private schools, and it's still the same, only the interest is growing. The last 30 years, there is a steadily growing interest, and in the beginning it's more maybe Prague, the capital, and very big cities. In the villages or small cities, nobody understands why to do these crazy schools. But as the years go, even in small places, these schools started. Then the parents are less afraid of these schools, because they heard about other schools, that they already have children that has finished these schools. They are not stupid, they pass exams, they are at secondary school, university. So this fear, what is it, and it's something unknown, it's less and less. And more parents, not only very, very alternative, very esoteric parents, but more and more the normal parents want this kind of education. And so even now, if you open a private school, half a year before it's open, then there is no free place for children. Yeah, my oldest son is now 17. I try to find a kindergarten for him. And I'm a teacher. My wife is a teacher in the rural Steiner system. So maybe we thought, okay, they will take us. No, we applied in the Steiner state Steiner kindergarten. No places there, even not for us. Another one, it was a new one. It was not there yet. Only after 3 months they said, no, too late. Goodbye. Okay, and there was another one. It was like a wife of a friend of mine who was kind of manager of a Steiner school, and she said, "Okay, there are 80 people on the list now, but you are my friend. Okay, so go ahead." So we could get into one of these kindergartens, so beautiful, that was about to open only, but it was wonderful. But it was a little bit a corrupt way how to get there, and it's always the situation is like that. There is so much demand. There's more and more schools, but demand is more and more. So that's the situation. And also because you have this 100% of the government after the first year, and then also people are getting richer in Czech Republic all these years. So it's more and more people that can allow this kind of education, not only the rich people. I have to say one thing, because this 100% is not really 100%. What is meant is 100% for the salaries of the director, of all the teachers and other people who work in the school. That's 100%. The same like in state school. But the parents or whoever starts the school, they have to find and finance the building, and also the maintenance of the buildings, all the energies, heat. That is not provided by the state. But many of these initiatives, they could find some building that belongs to the municipality, and municipality gives the building almost for free, actually for free. It is not allowed by the law, so I think some of them, they pay 1 crown a year or 1 crown a month. It means that in 1 year they pay less than €1. No, and there are many cases like that. So yeah, and because of that, there are some private schools where you pay almost nothing. It is like ridiculous. It is something like maybe €30 you pay in a month.
So how is the percentage of private schools?
I think now, if you count these private schools and also homeschooling together, it will be nearly 2%. 2% of school children. So one out of 50. 2%.
Oh.
Yes. But then you have the state schools, where there is also some of them are fully alternative, not many, only few, but many of them have one part, which is Montessori or step by step or something else. If you add this, nobody did the exact calculation, but I think you would probably have another percent, so you get 3%, maybe to 4%, maybe to 5%. Because how to define what is an alternate school? There is no clear definition. But I think you can speak about 5% or more, depending on the definition. So I think my feeling is that 10% of the schools in Czech Republic are really good.
Influenced by the alternative ideas.
Or good, because there are some schools that are traditional, but there is an extremely good atmosphere there and very good relationship of teachers and children and a lot of respect. And you have some alternative schools that are very alternative, very different, but there is not so much respect to children there or to parents. So it's not enough to see the label Montessori or Steiner. You have to go inside and look. So I'm actually also offering lectures on how to choose the right school for your child. And in these lectures, there is so much interest there, the parents say, okay, how can I know which school is good? And I say, you have to go inside the school. There is no other way. You can read website, but maybe they have the best website of all schools, but it's maybe a very bad school. So you have to go inside and make personal contact with the teacher of your child, a future teacher, and with the director. What kind of people are they? How do you feel? Not only what they say, because maybe they are lying, they want to get more money from you, but what they really are. Are they really interested in the child or not? So that's the way how the parents choose. They go into the schools or they ask other parents, how was it? Can you tell me, are there some problems in the school? And what about other people are saying? So there is like gossip going everywhere in Czech all the time, in state schools, private school, all sorts. And there is a lot of information, informal spreading like that, which schools are good and which schools are bad. And because of that, the good schools, there are more and more children. And the bad schools, there are less and less children. And good schools, there are better and better teachers there. And the bad schools, there are worse and worse teachers. There is this polarization effect that is happening there. But I'm not talking of private schools only. Exactly the same is happening in the state system. So you can have one city, an extremely bad state school, another end of the city, an extremely good state school. And that is a problem that many people say, oh, it's a huge problem, because in Finland the quality is in every school, and we have such an incredible gap in quality, even within the state system. And so...
But yeah. How was going on the training of the teacher?
Okay.
After the first moment of it.
Yeah, so I think there was some problem after that, because like after the first 10 years or so, these mainly German people, they went back to Germany and they thought, okay, now you have 10-year experience in these schools, you can take over, you can also do your own teacher training. And they actually did. So there was a lot of teacher trainings that was run after 2000, that was run by the Czech teachers. But, you know, these Czech teachers had 10 years of experience, but these German 40 or 30 at least. So all of these Germans had at least 30. There's nobody there having 10 years of experience. The Germans would never allow such a person to go to Czech Republic and teach something. They would say, no, he does not know anything. 10 years is nothing. So that was, I think, a mistake on the part of the maybe Germans, or maybe the Czechs. They maybe stopped inviting them, because I think the teacher training afterwards, the quality was much lower than the quality which came directly from this German or Dutch, Swiss people. But it was better than nothing. So,
but what happened in the university?
It's a good question. Actually,
do you have first question? This is not for us. It is different for us.
Okay.
And you have specific courses for teachers in the university?
Yes. Yes, of course. We have, like in most countries, there are pedagogical faculties where
Yes,
you
every level of teaching,
yes,
only for the primary.
no, every level.
Every level.
And then you have in many other faculties that are not pedagogical, you can also prepare to be a teacher, but only on the secondary level, so to say, on the level of 12 years old and older. You can get this degree in so many universities, like Faculty of Biology, Faculty of Mathematics, plus a kind of pedagogical preparation. And then you have pedagogical faculties where you, like most of the time, is devoted to pedagogy and also sometimes to the subjects, but pedagogy is central. And there, all the people have to be have to study who do primary education or pre-primary education. And also, there are people in the pedagogical faculties that train for secondary school teacher. Yes, but basically, it's most of the people are for primary teachers. So the system is like everywhere. And after the fall of communism, there were few professors, very few of course, that wanted to spread alternative education. And there was only one town in the country when they managed to establish a cathedral of alternative education. That means a department, sorry, it is called a department. A department of alternative education was established, as far as I know, only in one city in Ostrava, not in Prague. And some of the school directors in alternative schools that I know were students there in 1991, 1992, 1993, etc. And it was brilliant. I was not there, but it looked. From what I hear, I figure out it was brilliant. It was very good. But it was only in one city, and of course not so many students. And in other cities, like in Prague and Brno, they introduced elements of alternative pedagogy into the normal curriculum for teachers, but it was only very, very, very short parts. But at least these teachers heard about it. So we can say that almost everybody who studied for becoming a teacher heard about Steiner, heard about Montessori, heard about homeschooling, maybe very superficially. But it was enough for some of them to trigger the attention, and they could not get more information in the university, maybe. But they looked, are there some books? Is there something on the internet? Or some newspapers? Or some schools that are already alternative? And they went there and got informed. So that gave the possibility to every becoming teacher to get interested and study on his own, basically. Because all these seminars that were really of good quality were not organized by the universities, not by the state. It was all, so to say, private. But especially in the Steiner school system, the Germans basically worked there for free. So you did not have to pay anything or need almost nothing for the seminar. Montessori was different because it has a different tradition. So in Montessori, you have this element of money that is very important there. So there is like the most famous in the Montessori course, which is the Italian Montessori course, Associazione Montessori Internazionale, which some would say is the real Montessori. It is extremely expensive. So it is something that most teachers in the Czech Republic cannot allow if they don't have a rich husband or something. But then also even these Montessori people tried to find some other ways, and they got contact with Germany, and the Germans somehow could help them with very little money. They did not have to go to this official Italian teaching or official American teaching. So that was in the beginning, and actually it has not changed much. So maybe it got a little bit better, that there is a little bit more about that in the teacher training, but only a little bit. So basically, we can say that the teacher training is very weak point of Czech educational system. It is lags like 20, 30 years behind. And the schools, you have 200 alternative schools in Czech Republic. But this reality of the pedagogical faculties is like sometimes, even now, is almost like Middle Ages sometimes. So many people are angry because of that. Okay, if it was a free thing, okay, if somebody wants to sit there 5 years and lose his time, okay, it's his job. But the problem is that officially, if you are employed in a school, you should have this kind of official education, which most of the time makes no sense. This is very bad. But you have to do it to become a teacher. So people don't like it. But fortunately, the situation is such that there is not enough teachers in Czech Republic. And therefore, the state cannot really impose this role seriously. Because if there are not enough teachers with this diploma, so of course the director has to take somebody without a diploma. And that's what happens. So if there is a school inspection coming, and why are these people, they have no diploma on pedagogy, how is it possible? Okay, I can show you, I did this advertisement many times, and no people came with a diploma. So I had to take people without diploma. So the state can't say anything, you know? And that's a good thing, because I think most of the directors of these good schools, of these 10% of directors, they know that it's not important which diploma you have. It's important if you can teach. So they don't care about diplomas at all. There are even some directors. There is one school, network of schools, private, that is called SCIO school, like the school of knowing. There are maybe 15 of them. And the founder of this movement, he said, okay, the way I choose teacher is that if I get to know that the candidate has finished this pedagogical university, then I don't take him. I say, okay, next one. He does the opposite. Actually, it's not true, because he was saying that all the time, but then I saw the reality, and actually sometimes he did take these teachers, because if there is a school, a private school, and it has really like 0 teachers that have the diploma, then it's really dangerous. It can be that that probably then you don't get this 100%. But there were almost no cases that private schools were closed. So I presume that even if you do this and you have like nobody with a diploma, they probably, stop you from getting this 100%, and you get only 60%. But that's the worst thing that can happen to you.
But how do they consider the work of teacher? How is considered the work of the teacher?
Yeah, so I think it was.
Is it appreciated, or is it considered?
I think it is something of a medium. It was never very high. Probably, I think it was lower, 20, 25 years. It's difficult to say, because they had an authority in the communist time. So I presume that in 90s there was still the inertia that they were like persons of authority. But then I think they became less and less authority, like everywhere in the West. But I think the last years it is again on the rise, slowly, because the salaries of the teachers went up very much in the last few years. Because basically most of the times the salaries were very low compared to most of the Western countries, but they were higher than in Ukraine or Romania or Bulgaria or even Slovakia. So it was something in the middle. So I think we can't say that teacher is a person of high respect, but also not a person of very low respect. I think it's something in the middle.
And last question, how many women are there in the teaching?
So it's a good question. I don't know the exact statistics now, but in the beginning there was like most of them were women, very little men.
You mean even in the communist system?
Yes. No. Yes.
In the communist system,
yeah. And even after that, and because like the salaries were so low in the 90s, for instance, that if you were a teacher, okay, if you are on your own, it was possible. But if you had a family, it was not almost not possible. But then also because everybody got rich, not teachers, but like everybody. Then even though compared to other professions, teacher is not so good, you have more money, so you can allow the basic things even for your family. So I think that gradually they were a little bit more men entering the system, and in general there are more men in the secondary school, and also in the university it's sometimes almost opposite. And there are some. It's a very interesting question because it depends on the style of the school. For instance, this CEO schools.
This?
The system of CEO schools, it's like an alternative system. They have 15 schools. It's like if you CEO, scire, it's Latin. It's like knowing schools. It is a system that is new, that has been there only for 7-8 years. There, I was on an educational meeting, and all of the teachers came from these schools, 250, and most of them were men. Even though it's all elementary schools, only two are secondary schools. And it's because it is a style of teaching where you encourage the children to be active on their own, and there is almost no traditional teaching. And then that is like good for the boys, and it's also good for the for male teachers, I think. Yeah, so I have seen this, that there are some cases where there are even more male teachers because it's a particular pedagogical line. So Czech Republic now, you have the real diversity that is very difficult to find in any other European country, because you have private schools, you have religious schools, you have state schools, you have a lot of not official schools that are outside the system, that are like homeschooling groups. And then you have Montessori, you have Steiner, you have this and this and this, and you have the forest pedagogy is on the rise, 200 forest kindergartens now. 10 years ago there were 2 only. So you have a diversity. And the good thing is that very few of these schools, if you are speaking about elementary schools, very few of them are like about money. There are few that the founders maybe make it for money, but these are real exceptions. So even these private schools, maybe they take quite a lot of money, but because that is necessary, because otherwise you can't pay the building, and the teachers. So there are only very few cases where these people do it for money, and most of them, even in the private schools, do it out of idealism. So there is something like a picture. Okay, these private schools for rich people, and okay, these teachers have a lot of money there, but and the headmaster has a lot of money. It's not true, because I know so many headmasters that have minus money because they have made a lot of investment and it's still not coming back. Yeah. So that's the good about the Czech Republic, this diversity that is there.
Thank you.
Yes. Welcome.